This is the Grow Your Clinic podcast from Clinic Mastery. We help progressive health professionals to lead inspired teams, transform client experiences, and build clinics for good. Now, it's time to grow your clinic.
Welcome back to another episode of the Grow Your Clinic podcast. My name is Jack O'Brien, your host today, and super excited to bring you another episode. We are continuing our journey of member spotlights or clinic owner spotlights, shining a light on legends who are doing an amazing job leading inspired teams, transforming their client experiences, and ultimately growing clinics for good. And if there is one human that embodies that within the Clinic Mastery community, it would be Marion Giddy. We have Marion joining us on the podcast today. How are you, Marion?
I'm well, Jack. Thanks for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. So Marion is the founder and director of Cooee Speech, a speech pathology occupational therapy clinic up in Brisbane, and doing a ripping job. Did I miss any professions there, Marion?
No, you got the lot. Well
Speech
done.
OT. And you've been around the Clinic Mastery family for years now, and it's been a phenomenal privilege to be able to watch your journey. So we're going to dive into that. But right from the top, if people want to check out Cooee Speech or yourself while they're listening, maybe they're going for a walk, drive, maybe don't check out the Instagram profiles while you're driving. But if people want to know more, straight off the top, how can we find you on the socials or interwebs?
Sure. Cooee Speech is really easy to find. www.cooeespeech.com.au. Instagram and Facebook, it's just Cooee Speech. Pretty easy to find. And for me, I'm best on Instagram at Marion Giddy. They're easy ways to go. And you can also find me hanging out on the Yes and Instagram as well, which is yes_and_co.
Love it. If people are looking for some amazing foodie experiences, Marion's Insta is the place to be.
Courtesy of my husband, James.
Right. James is a legend. So now we're going to dive into your journey, but before we do, we've got a couple of standard icebreaker questions for you. So are you ready?
I am.
All right. Number one, what are you reading or learning right now?
At the moment, I'm reading a book called A New Republic of the Heart by Terry Patton, and it is introducing a new integrally informed vision of what the relationship between humans, each other, and the planet could look like.
Nice. Deep.
Yes, it's great.
Sounds it. I like it. Okay. Number two, who inspires you?
At the moment, there is a chef that's living in Bordeaux in Paris named Charles Michael or Charles Michel, I'm not sure. And I first watched him on a Netflix series called The Final Table and have since become a student of his on Patreon. And he's doing some really incredible work in the space of sort of food ecology and food education and how we interact with what we eat and using food as a vehicle for sort of ecological change and education.
I love it. What sort of, is it just standard French cuisine or?
So he's a chef by trade, but he actually is more in the world of education. He does some lecturing, and as a patron on his community, we get to jump in on Zoom calls and do cooking classes with him. Most of them are at sort of 2 a.m. in the morning. So there's one this weekend, which is on ceviche and the techniques of ceviche at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. I'm not sure I'm going to join in, but the last one was gnocchi and it was fantastic. So
that's awesome.
It's very cool how he is sharing his knowledge and making it fun for people to think about the food they consume and where it's coming from.
Love it. Okay, number three, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
I wanted to be what my grandmother wanted me to be, which was a doctor. And I was accepted actually into University of Newcastle out of school.
Right.
Yeah, your hood. And then just got terrified by the amount of work that went into it. So decided to do speech instead.
Fair enough. Good decision, I say.
I think so.
And finally, what's a motto that you live by?
So this was a tough one, actually. I don't have a motto that's strong for me. I have more of an intention, which is around how I'm choosing to show up at the moment and the ways in which I'm intentionally interacting and having more of that as the guiding framework.
I like it. I really like it. We need to change that question, actually. You might have prompted a change. 170 odd episodes deep. This might be time to change it up. Okay, so let's dive in. So from the young girl who turned down an opportunity to move to God's country here in Newcastle, to choosing medicine, choosing speech over medicine, what was the journey there? Why speech, and how did that play out for you?
Why speech? To be honest, I picked it out of the QPAC book. I wanted to do, is that what it's called? You know, the one I'm talking about. Yeah, whatever that is. I had a rough idea I'd like to work in health, and I wanted the security of being able to say I am a, and then insert profession here. So stumbled into speech, really didn't know what it was until about second year. It took me that long to catch on. And yeah, turns out it was pretty good.
For those who are maybe less familiar with speech pathology as a profession, what is speech pathology?
Sure. So speech pathologists are health professionals, allied health professionals who work with individuals across the lifespan that have communication or swallowing disorders. Great. So extremely broad and very specific at the same time.
Yeah. And that can work in private practice or the public sector?
Yes. Yep. NGOs, private, public.
Peds, neuro, the whole lifespan.
Yeah, aged care, hospitals, acute, justice system. Lots of spaces.
And so you kind of went with speech on a whim. What was it that kept you in speech pathology?
Good question. Look, it's interesting. It's an excellent profession. It's both sort of quite academic, I suppose, and intellectually stimulating, as well as having the human component. For me in pediatrics, I love that it's about development, and that's sort of why I landed with pediatrics, is having the opportunity to sort of watch kids grow and contribute to the development that they're experiencing. Yeah, it's a pretty special thing to go on the journey with kids, with families.
It's a phenomenal profession, and across working now probably with hundreds of species and SPA and diving into that world personally, I'm blown away by the caliber of humans that are involved in the profession and the impact and difference it can make, specifically in what we see through private practice species. So how or why did you end up in private practice when it came to speech pathology?
Again, not a lot of planning in that. It was more, I'd like to work in pediatrics in Brisbane, and private practice was the choice. So jumped into a contracting position out of uni and really enjoyed working with the families, and sort of found a very happy space in the profession.
Okay.
Straight off the bat.
And so if we continue that journey, how did you end up founding, starting your own private practice?
Yes, I think classic entrepreneur itch. Sort of 2 years into the contracting position, I was really seeking something different, and the opportunity came up to lease a space that had previously been a speech clinic already. I had a bit of a sort of leg up to start with, and I sort of had just come back from my honeymoon and sort of said to James, I think I'll do it. Why not? With all of the ambition of someone that's 2 years out of uni.
I recall the bravado. I'm sure all the listeners do as well.
It's a very special time when we think we can treat absolutely anything that walks in the door as a very young health professional. But yeah, it's worked out.
Forgive me for an assumption, but I'm sure you wouldn't change anything. But looking back of that early days startup journey, what are you really grateful for? What were some of the lessons that came across your path?
I think in the early days, like I had a great clinical inspiration, I suppose. And I think clinically it was really a lot around listening to what is it the clients are telling me, what do the clients need right now. And on reflection, I think that's where a lot of my drive to change things and do things differently came from, because it was a real place of wanting to, sort of speak to what the families were asking for, I suppose, and provide a service that matched that in the way that I thought it should at the time.
It's interesting, and I think it is quite a profound reflection for us all to think back on. And over time, I guess we all, and I'm thinking of the listeners here, we all enter into clinic ownership with rose-colored glasses or a blind optimism, maybe, which is beautiful, right? And it's an unharnessed sort of passion. And the lessons that we learn in those early days really do move towards shaping the type of clinician, the type of clinic owner that we are. And I know you're such a unique brand of clinic owner and style of clinic owner now, no doubt shaped from those early experiences. So we're going to dive into the journey, but can you paint us a picture from those early days, solo, startup, found a space, let's go for it. What is Cooee now today?
So first year into practice was classic building things up, having really no idea and doing whatever it would take to help families and see clients. And by the end of the first year, I'd taken on my first employee, and we entered a period of sort of organic growth then for probably the next 5 years, where the focus was entirely on the clinical service we provided and the quality of that. And I think a pretty classic journey, the business owner sort of primarily bringing in most of the revenue, working 6 days a week, and that supporting the employees or the team members that I had at the time. And so that 5 years was, I guess, a ground building phase, but also a space where I was completely unaware of what running a business actually looked like, or what it should look like, what numbers meant, and how to use numbers to measure business and make decisions. And so it was a tough 5 years in that space, which is what brought me then to Clinic Mastery, sort of really on a knife edge with what I wanted to do with the business at the time. Yeah. And it was very much a sort of make or break. And I remember saying to my mother-in-law and my husband at the time, and just saying, well, we'll try this. And if it doesn't work, then I'm done.
At least you can blame Clinic Mastery if it doesn't work. Right?
That's right. I'm putting all of my eggs in this basket.
Right.
And then sort of stepped into a space where accessing business coaching for the first time, and really any kind of coaching, was extremely vulnerable and very difficult, and also incredibly supportive and helpful. So spent how long has it been, Jack? Primarily, I think the first 2.5 years with Clinic Mastery was a real pulling out the weeds time and doing a big reset, and certainly a lot of education for me on the missing pieces of business knowledge that I hadn't educated myself on yet. So very intense sort of 2.5 to 3 years.
And so where are we now? So you mentioned initially you're carrying the brunt of, most of the revenue and load. Are you still seeing patients? What does the team look like? Multidisciplinary? Where are we at now?
So at that point, stepping into sort of Clinic Mastery and really needing to change the story, I think I had maybe 5 team members who were mostly working full time, and I was working 6 days a week clinically. And as it stands now, I have about 5 clients that I'm still hanging on to and haven't quite moved on just yet, which is, sort of a half to 1 day a week. And the rest of the time is on coaching and mentoring my team and working on the business. And I have a team of 16 of us in total.
Wow, that's huge.
Yes, 10 are therapists. So we now have speech pathology and occupational therapy, and we're in a sort of a really beautiful space of really embracing kind of a graduate position training sort of system, where we take in early graduates, early career speech pathologists, and provide exceptional training and support, and through that really enthusiastic, happy care for our clients.
I'm interested, Marion, was that always part of your vision or part of your desire statement to have this graduate training, multi-D, massive team where you're not seeing patients? Was that part of the desire statement, or did that evolve and come out over time?
It's very much been an evolution. I'll put my hand up and say visionary style of leadership is not one that I lean into very naturally. It's something that I've worked a little bit more at, but you've probably gathered the pattern of I've fallen into most of the things so far. and it's sort of been more natural growth in that aspect of the business finding its own direction to some extent. But having said that, there's been more of a guiding hand recently, and I'm extremely pleased with where we are.
You've done an amazing job. So what does an average week in the life of Marion look like now? If you're only seeing 5 or 6 patients, how do you get to spend your time as a clinic owner?
So at the moment, Monday is my clinical day, and that's where I focus on providing their care and doing some supervision with my team. The rest of the week is a little more free flowing. I do one-on-one coaching with each of my team, as well as still a spot of clinical supervision. And I'm also stepping into spending a bit of my time with a company called Yes And, which is a company that specializes in coaching and experiences and courses that center around human development and self-mastery and adventure, really.
I love it. So, and Yes And is very much a friend of Clinic Mastery. So let's talk about your journey as a leader, right? From solo startup, team of 5, now team of 16. When did you realize that you had to step up and lead, and what had to shift for you to become a leader?
Leader is such a loaded word, isn't it? And I think that it's something that definitely, and I know this is not unique to me, but for a long time, seeing myself as a leader was, and even as a boss, was just, I guess, an identity mismatch for me.
Okay. So as in you were reluctant?
Well, I think I just didn't see that in myself, or I wasn't clear on what that meant through me in my clinic, And so I sort of, after working with Clinic Mastery for 2 or 3 years, I'd gotten myself to a position where I felt extremely stressed. I had thrown myself into fixing the business and fixing the numbers and doing all of the work completely at the expense of myself, and had entered a space where, while the team was growing and things were going okay, I was really not in a place of probably communicating well with my team at all, and certainly not communicating with myself very well. And, I still remember it was at a Clinic Mastery event, actually, that I first heard Dan Kolapsky talk and speak about ego and the business owner and the concept of self-leadership. And it just resonated with me so strongly. After a couple of years that had felt tough and a lot of anxiety and stress, I'd kind of reached a point where I went, something needs to change again. Right. And so stepping into coaching and self-work and starting to look at myself as a leader a lot more intensely. So, the question of when did I identify as a leader? I don't think there's an end point to that question. I think a leader is someone who is willing to kind of step first into the mud and create a path, be an explorer. And that's kind of the definition that I see through self-awareness and through self-reflection, and those two being very different. I think that we as individuals can learn to adopt and step into the leadership styles that are needed. And I think being a leader is more around understanding and making sense of what's in front of us, and being able to then step into agency to do what's required and communicate really cleanly and clearly in those situations, rather than constructing an identity that we need to hang the right baubles on for it to make sense to us.
That's awesome. It's really fascinating. You've obviously spent a lot of time on your personal development, leadership development, business development. And I know we've got some experiences to go down when it comes to the personal development side. I just want to round out that clinical development discussion. You've invested in your growth and your business's growth. What's been the impact, or what are the key things that you think, that's changed or that's shifted in my business because I invested in business coaching?
What's changed? The whole business has changed, Jack.
Right.
It is not the same business. I mean, if we talk numbers, I've gone from a team of 5 to a team of 17. We've gone from having no admin support and very few systems, no systems really, to having a clinic that largely operates without my direct involvement. We, in terms of revenue, our profit has probably tripled in the last
Wow, well done.
3.5 years. And the capacity that we're in now to be able to actually give back to the team and create experiences and invest in the future of the clinic, it's a completely different conversation to be having. When we started the journey, we were drowning. And I remember saying that to Daniel Gibbs at the time. We are not okay. We're not going to make it through.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's
Wow.
night and day, the difference. Having good quality business coaches that will hold your hand. And that's very much what Clinic Mastery have done for me, have been to be a strong accountability partner. And yeah, that's worth its weight in gold.
Love it. And you've been an awesome student and community member in and through that.
Mm.
You mentioned night and day, so which is a perfect segue for us to talk about a part of the world where there is no night for half the year. So, which is the Arctic, right? So
Yeah, yes.
let's go down the personal development side, and you've obviously been really active in that and participating, investing in that. So, talk to us about the Arctic and how things have changed for you over the last year or two.
Right. So on hearing Dan Klapsky talk at the Clinic Mastery webinar, I sat there and went, so this is the thing that I've been neglecting. Turns out the self is also an important area of work. And he, I guess, offered for the trail running lovers out there the yearly Arctic Explore, the I Move Explore Arctic Leadership Adventure. And I sat there in the workshop and I just went, well, why not? If not now, when?
Right. Great excuse for a tax-deductible holiday. And
I went home and said to James, my husband, I said, oh, there's this trip to Iceland and Norway at the end of the year. And he said, well, that sounds like a stupid idea. I said, I think I'll do it though. And so did. And alongside stepping into coaching with Dan, I signed up for this crazy trip to the Arctic and got on a plane with 2 other humans I'd never met and flew halfway across the world to dive into myself through nature and explore was the theme. Mm-hmm. So it was absolutely the trip of a lifetime.
No doubt.
I think Lofoten's got to be one of my most treasured places in the world that I've been. It was incredibly special. And for me, I do a lot of trail running as well. And I find a lot of learnings and parallels between the challenges that we experience physically when we're, out in nature and expanding our borders with what happens in life and also in business. And
right.
The friendships, the learnings, it was an incredible trip.
So just to be clear, you're running along the ice and snow and volcanoes of the northernmost parts of the world, right?
That's right. We saw the Northern Lights. We swam in the Arctic Ocean. We had saunas. We ate local food, and we ran along ridge tops like you see people doing on Instagram. It was
amazing.
It was incredible.
And obviously the running's a whole part of it, but the diving into your own personal growth and development was a big key. Since then, like what's been the benefit or what's been the outcome for you as a clinic owner from investing in yourself? So
the journey of self-awareness for me and self-leadership as well has really sort of taken me inside to explore what is the lens, what is the view, what is the identity structures, or what are the identity structures that I hold on to, and through which filter the situations that come up in front of me. And it's been really a process of understanding and learning to create some space from the sort of unconscious thoughts, driving patterns and behaviors that we commonly identify with. Oh, that's just how I do things. Yeah, I always do it like that. I don't know why, and so it's a process of uncovering, I suppose, and communicating with myself more clearly, and also then being able to communicate with others more clearly. There's a system of work around understanding and being able to hold multiple perspectives and then integrate that into how you choose to show up every day in relation to others and in relation to self, and then also in relation to your wider community as well. And that's very roughly, I guess, the self-development journey that I've been on. Heading into the Arctic, one of our intentions or missions was to bring an idea to life, and having done sort of 9 months of this type of work on myself and seeing the difference in the stress, the burnout, the anxious feelings that we kind of take for granted as normal parts of maybe the clinic owner experience or maybe life.
Right.
I started to really challenge the idea that as health professionals, we just think that burnout is normal, and I had a realization that I really wanted to be able to create a business that was beneficial for the team members that were involved as well as for the clients. And that for the team members that come through the business, that they have an opportunity to learn to lead themselves as well, and hopefully leave the business better than when they came in, as opposed to the other way around, which is and has been a story in my clinic as well.
Fascinating. I love it. That's really exciting. And so now you mentioned that you've got to that place where you're able to now help others along that journey. Who are the types of people that you and Yes And are able to help?
So primarily anyone that really wants to step into understanding themselves better so that they can relate to and then show up in the world in a more true way, in a way that's more in line with what's really on the inside of them, and I think that can be leaders, it can be entrepreneurs, it can be business owners or clinic owners, and it can be creatives or artists or individuals. It can be working professionals. It's really around helping humans understand their own inner game so that the outer game becomes easy.
Love it. Marion, if I'm thinking about the hundreds and thousands of clinic owners listening along here, if you had to reflect on your own journey and were to impart some wisdom for clinic owners, what might that be?
I think seek coaching. Seeking coaching has been, whether it's business coaching, I've done leadership coaching, I've done personal development coaching, I've also done like wellness coaching, and I have a running coach as well.
Right.
I like to collect the set, but I think humans are meant to be in collection and in community, and that's something that I find coaching brings a little more in for me, of accountability partners that are there to be part of the wider network and web that we really have lost a lot of as we're living in less connected ways, I suppose, and having the advantage or the benefit of being able to draw on the knowledge of the community that's around us. I think that's what coaching really gives space for. You step into deliberate and intentional relationship with another person that you know is going to bring benefit to you. So for a business owner, it's got to be a good thing, regardless of the area that you need it in.
That's awesome. And that really resonates with me. I'm the same as you. I've got a strength coach, a relationships coach, a money coach, a business coach. It's absolute gold. Mate, thank you so much. I really appreciate your contributions and your openness and vulnerability. What you've brought to Clinic Mastery is remarkable, and what you're imparting to other clinic owners, business owners and people is, we're really grateful for all that you contribute. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks, Jack.
And again, if people wanted to get in touch with you or your clinic, how should they do so again?
So at Marion Giddy on Instagram or Facebook, and the clinic is Cooee Speech Pathology, and at Cooee Speech on Instagram. Yeah, same on Facebook.
Great. And listeners, we'll make sure we link all that up in the show notes or around this episode, wherever you are listening to it. We'll have all those links there for you. And as always, if you want to get in touch with us, you can send me an email, jack@clinicmastery.com, or leave us a review and rating on your podcast player of choice. Marion Giddy, founder of Cooee Speech. It has been real. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. To find out more about past episodes or how we can help you, head to www.clinicmastery.com/podcast, and please remember to rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. See you on the next episode.